Hey friends, Mazzy here, and here's a little offshoot video of cinema. Again, world cinema, foreign language cinema to be specific, and that's foreign language cinema from an English-speaking person's point of view. So I'm not gonna, being an American, I'm not gonna show any films from the UK, Ireland, in that area, or Canada, sorry, but I'm a big fan of foreign cinema. If you watched some of my earlier films that I did recently, I figured this is a perfect time to show that. But I'm sort of a student of cinema, big fan since I was literally a teenager. And especially now where a lot of you are locked down, it's the time to watch movies and read books. And people aren't friggin' reading books anymore. So look, these are foreign language films, which means they all have, or pretty much all of them have subtitles, unless you speak the specific language of the country, you have to read the subtitles. Don't be afraid. So many Americans are fucking afraid of reading subtitles. Like the movie that won Best Picture this year out of South Korea. So you get used to it. It enriches your lives, I think. It enriches your artistic tastes and experiences, and I think it's really good. So, big fan of these movies. They're not going to be in any particular order. It's about little 20 to 25. I'm going to go through them fairly quickly. I'm not going to get in details of subject matter, but a lot of these are, those of you who know cinema and watch foreign films will know pretty much all these directors. There might be one or two films in here that may surprise, but maybe not. But anyway, to me, these are about 25 films, and one is a big box showcase of a director that I think everyone who's in the cinema should see. Sometimes they're slow moving, sometimes they're not the typical action films. I'm making excuses now. Why am I making excuses? Anyway, I'm going to go through them quickly. Again, these are, it's a great education about cinema, but don't look at it look at it artistic entertainment. And these are some of the most important films ever made in most cases. I'll start with Jean Cocteau's great silent film, Beauty and the Beast. Actually, it's not all silent, is it? But Beauty and the Beast, an amazing piece of work. This was from 1946, not silent, but it obviously is in French with subtitles. It's black and white. Yeah, in French with optional English subtitles. So you can not watch the subtitles and just enjoy the music. Or if you're interested, you can put on a record and play it visually, some of these, and just get through it. I don't suggest that you should do that to begin with, but an amazing motion picture, very surreal in so many ways too. And the visual effects for the 40s is pretty amazing right there. An important film. From 1959, 58, 59, I think 59, won the Palme d'Or, Black Orpheus, and this is Marcel Camus, and it takes place in Rio de Janeiro during the Carnival, and this has music by Antonio Carlos Jobim that really kind of launched the whole Brazilian Girl from Ipanema craze that happened. Everyone from Caribbean music with Belafonte, which is obviously a different thing, but that kind of international thing, wave that also swept the States, and Brazilian music with Getz Gilberto, Getz Jobim, and the like. But beautiful film, very musical, very enriching, an amazing soundtrack. The soundtrack does have dialogue from the film, but one of my favorite films, Black Orpheus. I got three from the next director, who was my first foray into foreign cinema when I was a teenager. And it started with this movie, 400 Blows by Francois Truffaut. I've showed this on another video. This is a Criterion. I haven't opened this one, but I've seen this movie at least a dozen times. Projected in theaters and starting in this early 70s when I first saw it. An amazing film. This was his first film. Truffaut was a critique film writer, historian, did the famous book with Alfred Hitchcock and autobiography. an amazing film, beautiful film, intimate film, and he worked with Anton Doniel on, I think, 4 other movies. He's basically followed his life and used him in other films that sort of connect somewhat. But this, by far, is the best. 400 Blows, great movie. There's certain black and white sequences. It just, when he steals a milk bottle, I don't know, it's a simple shot, but just the way he does it, that's been etched in my mind for years. Probably his most famous film in terms of critically acclaim is Jules and Jim, and beautiful film. This is sort of I want to say menage a trois, 3-way romance, friendship, not in a really sexy way specifically, but it's just, it's a free spirit film of these relation between these friends over a course of 25 years. But Jules and Jim, great Truffaut film. And something completely different that was done later in the 70s, and a film that I just love. And actually this is not, this is in English and French, so you can see the beautiful Jacqueline Bisset, and she, you know, speaks English and French. If you don't know her, you may know her from the film Bullet with Steve McQueen. A lot of other films she's been in, but great movie. This is one of the best movies about making a movie. So it's a film about making a film. It takes place on a film set. The other movie that I like a lot is The Player by Robert Altman, but that's in English, so it's by an American director. But very favorite film of mine, and I've seen all these films multiple times over the years. And of course, a lot of them have been remade, or some of these films have been remade in the English versions, which are never as good, including this one. Jean-Luc Godard, Breathless, 2 young renegades in France. It was remade in the 80s, I think, with Richard Gere. Not anywhere as good, but they did get to have the band X do a cover version of Breathless, the Jerry Lee Lewis song that's in this. But this is from 1960, jazzy freeform. It's a sexy film. It says it's a homage of the American film genre that inspired it. Jean-Paul Belmondo and Jean Steinberg, Breathless. And this is a film that actually helped start the French New Wave that Truffaut was a part of, and several other directors. This is a Criterion edition with a really cool book, DVD. I don't have a Blu-ray of this, but love this film. One of my favorite films. Now I'm going to do 3 films from my, the most famous Italian director was Federico Fellini. My favorite of which is 8½, with Marcello Mastroianni. Ladies' Man, if you've seen there's a big Broadway play called 9 with a movie. Daniel Day-Lewis was in the movie and all these wonderful women. The movie was not very good. Sort of, there was a musical based on 8½, called 9. But this is truly an amazing film. This is from, what year was this? I'm thinking 1960-ish. Let's see. I don't even know. Come on, Criterion, tell me when this was. I'm thinking late 50s, 1963. Great film, very surreal film. The Woody Allen movie Stardust Memories takes a lot from this purposely, on purpose, and it's an amazing piece of cinema. Very surreal as well. I mean, I've seen almost every Fellini film. The other one with Marcello Mastroianni, which I love, this is a Criterion version of La Dolce Vita, and it's about the excess of celebrity, world of celebrity, kind of what we've gone through the last few years with reality TV in a way. Not specifically that, but from 1960, another gorgeous film, an important film in the history of cinema, and God, I don't know what I can say, but La Dolce Vita, a favorite of mine as well. And then Lestrade, about, has some English, Anthony Quinn is in it, who is a great actor, American actor, a Greek-American actor, in Zorba the Greek and things like that. This is about a girl who was sold to the circus, sold to a strongman, traveling circus. Also an amazing film, artistic achievement. This was from 1954. So this film is as old as Mazzi. Lestrade by Federico Fellini. I mean, I could have picked a lot of Fellini films. There's Roma. I'd go see all his films. Some of them work better than others, but they're all visually stunning, and they're another filmmaker that influenced Woody Allen a lot. And again, if you've seen my features with The Archivist, I'm a big fan of Woody Allen and his movies too, and he really takes from these things. Okay, a more modern classic in a way, but this is from the 90s, I believe, or the 2000s, 1999, a German film, Run, Lola, Run. If you haven't seen this film, you got to see it. This might be the most accessible for you. It's in a way like Groundhog Day that keeps reoccurring. And this whole story of her running between these scenes and these moments. And it goes into this sort of German techno music as well as animation. It goes from her running to the animation. And this is, it's kind of like, it says here, a thrilling post-MTV roller coaster ride. And that's exactly what it is in a way. Famke Potente, I think that's how you pronounce her name, is in it, who was in the original Bourne movie, the ingenue or the cohort or the kidnapped person in that. It's been a lot of movies since, but I love this movie. This might be if you haven't seen this might be the most accessible one right now to just put on. If you have a system that connected to your stereo, blast it, because it's a really kind of good, that club bass, disco, German kind of soundtrack to it throughout it. Great movie, great. Okay, and a surreal kind of film. Someone mentioned my last video, I didn't mention Luis Buñuel. Andalusian Dog, I know of his surrealist. Some stuff is harder to watch than others, but he's really interesting. This is the discreet charm of the bourgeoisie, and it's basically takes place, it's these kind of bourgeois rich people around a dinner table, and the whole thing resolves around that. They're telling stories, they're talking, and there's some stories they tell, and you don't really know what's real and what's surreal. It's a movie you got to pay attention to, so don't be sleepy, but don't be afraid to read dialogue. And love this movie. Haven't seen this one in a while. I think it's time to watch this one. Upper class sextet sits down to a dinner but never eats. Their attempt to continually thwarted by vaudevillian mixture of events, both actual and imagined. Highly recommended for the surrealist in you. Going on the other end of the spectrum, a movie you probably all know about. There were, I think, this and a sequel. This is the original French film, La Cage aux Folles, which became a musical, became an American version with Robin Williams called The Birdcage. And it's about a gay couple in South Beach who, actually, South Beach is the American version. Obviously, this is in France. And they have a nightclub, La Cage aux Folles, and one of the partner's sons, has a grown-up son, is going to get married, and they have to meet the new parents, and the new parents are very conservative. The American version is Gene Hackman, very right-wing politician person who doesn't know that the boy, the man his daughter's going to marry, is gay. And hilarity ensues. They're both good. I love the American version, Birdcage, but this is the original. There was a sequel to this, but this is a big art house hit when this came out. This is 1979. La Cage aux Folles, and who directed this? I don't even know. Oh, well, Ennio Morricone, the great Italian musical score musician. Composed the score for this, and so it's a great score as I recall. Come on, come on, come on. I don't even, God, that's really, I need to see who directed this. Screenplay, anyway, it's a French-Italian co-production. Takes place in exotic Saint-Tropez, which is on the south of France near Nice and, well, near Cannes on the southern coast of France. Jeanette and Caro are French directors, co-directors. This is in French and English. And this is a City of Lost Children. They made Alien 4. They made some other, their films are very surreal, very beautiful, very artsy. Oh, I just thought of one I need to grab. In fact, right after this, I'm going to grab something here. This is a great film. It's got Ron Perlman in it. You know Ron Perlman from Hellboy and from the motorcycle TV show, who does a lot of facial prosthetics. He was in the TV show of the 80s, the version of Beauty and the Beast. He's in this too, but this is a very surreal film. Very steampunk design and art direction. The movie I wanted to show after this, just because for some reason it reminds me, it's not the same at all, but it's a French film. One of the most beautiful French films, I think, and it was very popular in the States here, is Amelie. Gorgeous film. This is another one that's very accessible, that if you haven't seen Amelie, you need to see it, because it says it's the feel-good movie of the year, Premiere Magazine. This came out in, let's see what year this came out. I don't even know. 2001. Great film. Very accessible. Very beautiful. Amelie, French film. Watch it. Watch it. Have a night of this and then a night of Lola Run to ease you into those subtitles. Okay, I can't talk about foreign cinema without talking Akira Kurosawa. Kurosawa influenced American cinema big time because of this film, Seven Samurai. This ended up being remade into The Wild Bunch. The Wild Bunch, the American film by Sam Peckinpah, about these samurais that protect a village from these troublemakers, from these terrorists that come in and ravage and steal and take the food and take the creations of the local village, and they come in to protect it. And it's a beautiful, heroic film. But again, this was remade into The Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah. Great film. And this is from 1954. So this is also as old as Mazzy. But this led, I've seen almost all the Kurosawa films, and I got two here for different reasons. The other one that I just got bought, again, I mentioned this before, Criterion is a sort of a premiere, it's like the mobile fidelity version of cinema movie making. And twice a year, at least, they have 50% off sales directly or through Barnes & Noble. And their films usually are anywhere from $30 to $40, so you can get them from $15 to $20, which is, to me, if you're into a movie and you still collect films, a lot of people don't anymore because of streaming, but there's certain films I need to get. And Kagemusha is a film I saw. I haven't watched this since 1980, and I can tell you when I saw it. I saw it on a Monday night, December 8th, 1980, in San Francisco at the Clay Theater on Upper Fillmore Street. My friend David, who I did the Beatle book with, the Beatles England, was working for the Nabokov, the cinema chain in San Francisco that had the Surf, the Clay, the Lumiere, and the Castro theaters, amongst others, and would get me passes to the movies. So my buddy, Jazz Shit Brooks, myself, and another friend, Ben, Superfly Ben, went to see Kagemusha, which was the new Kurosawa film at the time. At the end of the film, I'm not going to wreck it for you. Well, there's a scene where the hero is on the beach and a massive trove of archers are shooting arrows into him while he's on the beach, and you know, you got to watch the movie anyway. It's not a spoiler. It is a spoiler, but hey, it's still a beautiful samurai film, warrior film, a Japanese film. He falls on the beach. We were watching the credits. The manager came down and tapped me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, are you Norman Maslov?" And because he had given me the pass to the theater, and he remembered I came in the theater. And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Call David, my friend, at the Surf Theater, one of the other theaters. Talk to him right away. Apparently, John Lennon's been shot." I started shaking. I went, and I couldn't. It was really hard for him to get my quarter or whatever it was in the payphone. And I called David, and I said, "David," and he goes, "Yeah, it's true. He's shot and he's dead." So I'll always remember that night of seeing Kagemusha. So I kind of want to watch it again soon, but I'm also a little afraid. But I like to face those traumatic events right head on, and this is a beautiful, beautiful movie by Akira Kurosawa, blanking out. I got emotional just thinking about that. Kagemusha. And I'm throwing this one. A lot of people don't know about this one. This was a Russian-Japanese co-production, Dersu Uzala. Dersu Uzala was directed also by Kurosawa, and it's an amazing film. It's about a Russian soldier who has this wilderness, Siberian wilderness, has this, how can I explain it? It won Best Foreign Language Film the year it came out in the 70s. He's a Soviet surveying crew, and he has this guide take him around, and it's an amazing adventure, an amazing location cinematography. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous film. And it says a portrait of man and nature, and it's just like that. If you like films like Jeremiah Johnson with Robert Redford, a Sidney Pollack film, you might like this. It's not kind of action oriented, but it's the power of nature emerging with this somewhat adventure. 1971 USSR Japanese co-production directed by Akira Kurosawa. Dersu Uzala. All I remember right now, I've seen this about 3 times, it's been a while, is Dersu, Dersu, Capitan, Capitan. They're looking for each other and searching and yelling, and that's something I really remember. But gorgeous film, gorgeous. I have one more Kurosawa film, one of his classic films about a bodyguard. It's a dark, kind of a black comedy in Japanese, Yojimbo. Yojimbo, and this is from 1961. And this was remade as A Fistful of Dollars. So the spaghetti western movies were sort of based from this. So, you know, they begat Kurosawa begats spaghetti westerns. I didn't even pick the spaghetti westerns because they're pretty much dubbed in English of the Man with No Name series with Clint Eastwood. I love The Good, Bad, and the Ugly and A Fistful of Dollars and the series of films. But it's kind of a gangster type film, a Japanese film, but Yojimbo, highly rated. And I had to show those 4 of Kurosawa. Now, one of the best trilogies ever made by Krzysztof Kieślowski is Red, White, and Blue. 3 somewhat separate films of based on 3 different women, and they overlap somewhat. In fact, there are scenes within each movie where one of the characters from Red will be in white and blue. But the great Juliette Binoche is in blue. Irene Jacob is in red. And the wonderful Julie Delpy is in white. And you've seen her in a lot of American films as well, including the trilogy, the Paris trilogy with Ethan Hawke. I forgot what it's called. not Paris trip, but I forgot, what I'm talking about. But these are amazing films, and it's a great trilogy to hunker down and watch over this this time when you're in your house. You can probably stream these or rent them somewhat, but I highly recommend them. Maybe even Netflix, and a lot of people don't see these films on Netflix or Hulu or on Amazon Prime, but sometimes they're deep down in there. So if you have a remote that you can do a voice or search, find out where they are, because they might even be online free somewhere. But these are great films. But obviously, they're not in English for the most part. But the great trilogy, blue, white, and red, 3 colors trilogy. A few more. Not a big film, and this is almost like a cult film. And I saw it. It's Rene Clement, 1960, I believe, or 59. Let's see. It's called 1960. It's called Purple Noon. Now, I didn't see this till way late into the 80s. And it's with Alain Delon, who was a pretty popular French actor, made a few American films as well. I love this film, and the main reason that it interests me, because I'm a big fan of the Ripley trilogy of books. And Patricia Highsmith, crime, suspense, mystery writer, wrote Strangers on a Train that Hitchcock turned into a film, but wrote the series of books of Tom Ripley. You've heard of The Talented Mr. Ripley. That's probably the most famous one, because finally, when it was made into an American film, it became really popular. But before that, the first one I got into is American Friend by Wim Wenders. And I didn't show that. It's half German, half English. Dennis Hopper's in it. Bruno Ganz is in it. Bruno Ganz is the actor. If you've seen the Hitler meme where Hitler's in the bunker and they change around on YouTube, change the story around what he's saying, that's Bruno Ganz. I've showed American Friend several times because it's one of my favorite films. It's a kind of surreal film, suspense, but bizarre in a way. Well, this is the first time a Tom Ripley book was turned into a movie. And this is the story, Purple Moon, which is based on The Talented Mr. Ripley. So this, the Matthew, who played Ripley? Anyway, the American version is this same story. This is the first French version. Then in the 80s, early 80s, I guess, late 70s maybe, was American Friend by Wim Wenders. And then there was Talented Mr. Ripley. And then about 10 years ago, there was another book called Ripley's Game, another version, of American Friend. I'm confusing you, aren't I? With John Malkovich, which was shot in Europe, which is also a great film. I read all the books, all 5 books, Talented Mr. Ripley, Ripley's Game, The Boy Who Followed Ripley, I forgot the other one. Love those books. They're light reading, but they're great mysteries to read. Read them in order. If you want to read and not watch movies and read subtitles, find the Tom Ripley books by Patricia Highsmith. But this was the first film, and I've seen it twice. Again, this was a Criterion. I got half off. I haven't watched it again since, but it's really good. Interesting. Is the whole aura of Matt Damon, that's what I'm thinking of, in A Talented Mr. Ripley. A couple more here. A great, beautiful, surreal film, Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. Some of those amazing creatures. He did Hellboy. He's done a lot of surreal films. He did the water film. What is that? Creature Water, won Best Film a couple years ago. I'm blanking out the name of that. But, his creatures are amazing. And this is about a little kid who has these dreams and leads to kind of an internal, surreal adventure. A gorgeous film. And if you have a nice screen, any screen, but if you have a flat screen that can showcase the details and the darkness of this movie, it's really amazing. Beautiful, stunning film. And the last of the single ones, I'm going to end up with a box set. I mentioned this many times, Wim Wenders, One of my all-time favorite films is Wings of Desire. It's in German with some English. It's Bruno Ganz again from American Friend, who's in this film. And it's got Peter Falk, Columbo, who kind of plays himself. So he's the English-speaking thing. It's about angels. I think Cities of Angels was the American version, which I think is terrible, with Nick Cage and Meg Ryan, about a love story. Anyway, gorgeous film about angels, black and white, amazing photography, a great soundtrack. If you find the CD, I have the vinyl too, I believe. The soundtrack's amazing. It's string, classical instrument, mixed in a song or two by Nick Cave, who is in the movie. Nick Cave, the Australian rock and roller, who does there's a sequence that the band's actually playing themselves and playing music in the movie. There's a great trapeze series of things that goes on. It's just gorgeous. One of the most beautiful black and white films I've ever seen. And it's one of my all-time favorites. So Wings of Desire, the great German director Wim Wenders, who also made Paris, Texas, but that's in English. And lastly, I'm going to just show, this is an amazing Criterion box set that had a half-off sale I got last year, a year and a half ago. This has pretty much 90 films? It's got almost every piece of film, not 90, but a ton of films by Ingmar Bergman. Now his stuff is, you got to take it slow, but it's an amazing photography, amazing writing, somewhat depressing, artistic. Obviously, the one that a lot of people like to, that got him noticed more so is 1957's The Seventh Seal with the late Max von Sydow, who just passed away. And he's about this soldier who plays chess with death. And if you ever saw the second version of Bill and Ted's Excellent Vacation, they kind of mold death from that film. Parody. It's been parodied so many times. Other films that are in here that are amazing: Hour of the Wolf, Persona. Let's see. The Touch. Now the 70s, he had a resurgence. I mean, never really went away, but with Cries and Whispers, Scenes from a Marriage, which was a kind of a mini-series in Sweden and in the U.S., and then The Magic Flute, Serpent's Egg, Open Sonata. But his Scenes from Marriage is a brutal film, emotionally draining, and that's where Woody Allen, again, when he started making his unfunny, surreal films, kind of emphasize this movie. And the one that comes to mind is Interiors. Interiors, people thought, what the fuck is this after Annie Hall in Manhattan, or after Annie Hall? Interiors is a hard film for some people to watch, but it's taken right out of the playbook of 70s Ingmar Bergman films. This has a beautiful, beautiful book, and it's for the cinemaphile who's really into Bergman. Bergman, one of the most important directors in cinematic history. So that's Mazzy's foreign film extravaganza, non-English speaking films. Don't be afraid to read subtitles. Dive into some of these. There's some easier than others, but it's so rewarding if you have the chance and if you really let yourself go with it. And now that you may be isolated, maybe if you can kind of relax all thoughts, surrender to the void, you can namaste yourself and focus in and turn everything out and just enjoy these pieces of cinematic artwork from these amazing directors. So Mazzy loves you, and there's a lot I didn't cover here, I'm sure, just from these directors alone and many other directors beyond these. So these are the ones that I kind of grew up with over the last, God, almost, I say 45 years. So Mazzy loves you. Take care, everybody.
Her hair was the color of gold and old paintings. She had a full set of curves which nobody had been able to improve on. She was giving me the kind of look I could feel in my hip pocket.
Wait, there's more. 2 more, or 3 more, but, oh. Diva, great thriller, operatic, French film from the mid-'80s that fits right in there. Directed by Jean-Jacques Benet, who also did Betty Blue. Highly recommended. I mean, very accessible for you English-speaking cinema fans. Diva, watch this. And the other two is a two-parter that I just rewatched again, and it's Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring. This is about a father and his daughter and wife who have this house and buy this farm. City folk moving to the country and trying to build a life there. And there's one well, and what happens, what ensues. This takes place some 20 years later when the girl is grown up. I don't want to wreck it for you. Very rewarding films, big films in France, big films here on the circuit. Claude Berry directed these, and they're wonderful films. Highly recommended. Watch them back to back. They're very rewarding and very enjoyable. And you may be surprised what happens throughout. But good films. Love you, babe.